Welcome back. President Trump wants peace in Ukraine, and his patience is growing thin, his rift widening with President Zelenskyy.
We have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
And today, writing on Truth Social, think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Zelenskyy, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won. And where are those billions of dollars? Well, the Ukrainians say a lot of that is unaccounted for, and Americans are losing support for that war effort. 30% say the U.S. is providing too much support for Ukraine. That's up almost fivefold since the war began in 2022. This is all taking a little bit of a turn here with respect to public support for this war. It's been 3 years now, a lot of destruction, a lot of lost lives on both sides, a lot of money, Larry, that can't be accounted for, hundreds of billions of dollars coming from the United States. Zelenskyy also saying that, indicating that President Trump is siding with Putin in a way, saying that he's living in a bubble of Russian disinformation. What do you think?
I think that President Trump is delivering a shot across the bow. He's basically saying to Zelenskyy, pipe down. You're talking too much and you're saying goofy things. I'm basically going to rescue this whole story so another 1 million people won't be dead in Ukraine, or dead and injured, or your churches and your entire infrastructure is torn into rubble. I think that's what he's doing here. It's a shot across the bow. I felt that President Trump, the way he went right at it with Putin and set up a peace process, which Biden would never do, is long overdue. And you can see the talks began in Saudi Arabia. It's going to take a while, but I think it was a tremendous act of statesmanship on President Trump's part. And I think he does not want Zelenskyy or anybody else to get in the way of that act of statesmanship. He has set up a process. He's got his top people, Marco Rubio and so forth, down the line, and they're negotiating with Russia's top people. And I hope and pray some good comes out of this.
Can I ask you a question? What are the odds that this is a world where negotiations with Russia bring us closer? Is that weird? Where I'm always a fan of keep your friends close but your enemies closer. Is there a world where if we're negotiating directly with Russia, maybe leaving out Ukraine, leaving out China, leaving out the former allies of Russia, that this helps break the ice in that relationship?
Well, I think the ice is broken. Whether we become closer or not, I don't know. Russia is a profoundly autocratic country and does not agree with our democracy-related values, so that's a problem. And perhaps there'll be, sort of, instead of a hot war, we'll go back to being a Cold War or something like that. The other thing that interests me, though, Taylor, especially to you, market ace that you are, the war premium could come out of the price of oil from Brent crude to West Texas and drop it by $10 or $12. And that would be a huge plus for inflation, for interest rates, for share prices, stock prices, and everything. I believe this is Dan Clifton's argument from Strategas, will be on our show this afternoon. There's been a war premium in oil. And before the new drilling starts, drill, baby, drill, I think that you could see some very positive developments in the oil market, make everybody happy.
See, that's a big part of Trump's goal here is things like that. His job is not to be friendly with Zelenskyy. Our job is not to necessarily be close to anybody. It's to be well positioned where we need to be. So I agree with you. I don't think he's trying to be friends with Zelenskyy. He's trying to get him to the table along with Putin so they can get a deal done, so we can stop spending money, people can stop dying, and maybe the price of oil can come down. That's what our president is supposed to do. He's not scoring like relationship points with Ukraine right now. We didn't hire him to do that.
Or Putin. Or Russia.
Or Putin or anybody.
Because he's not going to let Putin get away with everything. He's not. He's going to, not at all. It's going to be a tight leash on that story. Look, the other thing is America First is this hemisphere, okay? We have to protect the Gulf of America.
Right.
We have to protect the Panama Canal. We have to worry about China infiltrating in South America. We have to stop Russia and China from taking over the Arctic Circle. That's what the Greenland debate is all about. That's close to home, okay? The other things in Eastern Europe, that's a different story.
Sure. And the 50-50 JV gives an opportunity for not only Ukraine to tap into its resources, but we'll get something back. I don't think it'll be as much as what we spent so far in this, but we got to go. I'm going to zip you again. Sorry.